Hi, I'm Laura Doman, actor, voice actor, and coach for business people getting better on camera themselves. And I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew, and we had a blast.
Whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can sell them out to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. Never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are, who you're going to be. So prove to them, sell them out to something. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the KeithAndrewNetwork. It is the last episode of season 11. It is 1099. That is right, 1099. As you heard from the recommendation, our guest already introduced herself. With that being said, we're going to start off with icebreakers. First question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great. Hey, everyone. My name is Laura Doman, and I am a corporate turned creative. That means that once upon a time when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I was in IT corporate sales. And over some changes, decided to do what I always wanted to do. I mean, if you really don't know what you want to do, think about what you loved when you're little. So I decided to become creative. And that means acting, writing, voiceover work, even improv and some business coaching. So I'm having a great time.
No, that's wonderful. And I have some great ideas I would love to work with you on. So let's start with the basics. When you were in college, what did you major in, and were you a study nerd or party animal?
Oh, I've never been a party animal. I wouldn't necessarily say I was a study nerd. I think I kind of went somewhere in between. But at the time I was studying business. I majored in finance, and then I also had a minor in computer science and statistics. So it's very exciting stuff, but I liked it.
No, you have to have the heart and passion to do what you do. If you don't have the heart and passion, you're setting yourself up for failure. So
That's right.
never do anything half-ass.
Nope,
Speaking,
nope.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, back when I was in school, I always liked doing the business and the entertainment. But at my university, they would not allow you to even audition for any of the plays unless you were a theater major. And so I ended up doing speech team competition, which was even more fun because you have to think on your feet. So it set me up very well for what I do now, as well as a business career in sales.
No, that's absolutely amazing. Now, is your heart in it, or do you just do it because it's a job,
You talking about back then or what I'm doing now?
or what you're doing now?
Oh my gosh, this is my passion. In fact, I even go around talking to groups about how to reinvent yourself later in life and how to do it right. Because people, my friends say, I've never been happier. I look happier. I look forward to every single day when I wake up, most days when I wake up. And I have an absolute blast. I mean, I was on set last night for a print job, and I just reconnected with some really cool people I met in other paths, and I met a whole bunch of new ones. And it's just so exciting. And, creativity begets creativity. It gives me new ideas to do different things, like my own video series. So, it's all good. Definitely a passion.
No, you're absolutely right. That's half the battle. You have to do what you love because if you're doing things half-ass, and you would know best. Well, actually, I don't know if you did things half-ass, but for me, I did things half-ass, so I'm speaking from experience. When you meet someone, you're going to get the first 10 seconds to make an impression. So it doesn't matter if you're having a rough day or it doesn't matter what you're going through, have a smile, shake the person's hand, and put on a good face because you never know when you're going to meet the same person down the road and they're going to remember that first experience. So never, burn any bridges. So,
Oh,
question, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you're absolutely right. And I'd say you're probably a master at that because you're wrapping up your 11th season. I mean,
Yes.
most podcast, video series, hosting, it doesn't go more than a couple episodes. So kudos.
No, I appreciate that. And I extend my hand to you in friendship, and I would love to work with you.
That'd be great.
So the next one I want to ask you, you mentioned you were a writer. Who
Yes.
info, well, let me rephrase that. As you're a writer, so our next segment is called, I'm still working on the name of it. It's really cool. As we're talking, there's a guy walking up a flight of stairs. So might as well call it Walking Upstairs. So with that being said, every step that you take when you walk on those steps, from the day you're born to this high school to college, with everything that you accomplish from being an actress, a writer, a business owner, what was the process of each step? So the first step we're going to talk about is writing. Who influenced you to become a writer?
Mm, probably all the books I read as a kid. I just digested every fairy tale book I could find. I remember there was a blue one, a green one, a yellow one, etc. And from there, I went on to the mythologies. I was just being an avid reader. And that gets you thinking. And I even started writing my own novel, which I thought was very original. I was 10. I called it The Time Machine, but I was crushed when my father told me there's already a book about that. um, but it's just the people around. It's another form of communication. I mean, you talk about the different steps, and each one is a plateau, which can take you to the next one. And sometimes that staircase is going to wind, and sometimes it's going to split. And some of it feels like you're going down before you go up. So it's kind of like those magical moving stairways at Hogwarts. You never know quite where you're going to end up, but you have a good idea. Everything that you've done lays the groundwork for where you're going, but you could still make a choice. And it's also what attracts you and what makes you feel good and where you feel like you're in the right space. But it's all about sharing a story. And that's everything we do, whether we're telling a story around a campfire, whether we're going to be writing, making a film, even a commercial is like a 30-second story. And it's something we're just sharing with other people. And it's usually from our own lives and experiences.
No, you're absolutely right. You have a great voice. And that's I see why you've been on TV.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sometimes you're just smiling. Like last night, I was just smiling and posing like just what pose. But I do a lot of voiceover work. And the secret with what voiceover work is not necessarily have a great voice. It's like anything else. You might have some interest and some talent, but it is showing up, being determined to learn all you can and to do it and to be persistent. For example, both of my kids love chess. I mean, I never played chess. Somehow I became the chess mom at their school, but they love chess and chess competition. And their coach was telling them it's not just natural ability. Anybody with natural ability that just never practices is going to be beaten almost every single time by somebody with a little less talent, but who really works at it and continues to improve and persist. And I think that's true with a lot of things. In fact, that's what they tell actors. The secret is just showing up and not quitting because there is so much rejection in this field. You're constantly being told you're not enough or you're not right or this, that, and you can't win because you never know what they're really looking for. You just have to be yourself. But you got to just know that there is the right role out there for me. And if you don't find it, you can always make your own. Content creation is just about huge in this field. And you see it anywhere from short films to feature films to parodies and songs or even cute little YouTube videos like the ones that I'm doing.
No, I agree. One thing I always got a beat over the head with when I went for an interview is when I would say, in a nice way, to say, "Why you want to work here? You're overqualified." Has
Uh,
anyone ever said that to you? You are why you want this position? You're overqualified.
Sometimes, and what that usually means is they don't want to pay you what you're worth. Everybody's getting something for nothing. And you know what? It's like, well, thank you very much. Sorry you can't work, but if you need any interim help in the meantime, I'd be happy to talk with you as a consultant.
No,
So
you're
you can get right down to the fact whether you do offer the skills that they have, and maybe they want to try you out. Different ways to go about it. But like you said, always lead with a smile on your face, be positive, because this is often very true. We've noticed this in voiceover, for example. People might just say, instead of overqualified, oh, you're just too expensive. We're going to go on this other site where we can pay $5, $10, or $15 for something that's really worth $200, $300, or $500. Okay, fine, go for it. But guess what? You get what you pay for. And sometimes those people come back and they say, you know what, that didn't really work out too well. What do you say you charge? And then you're off and running.
No, I agree. Now, the two other questions I want to ask you is, who influenced you to be in voice acting, and have you ever worked with any famous celebrities?
Okay. The first question, I didn't even know it was voiceover, which is what a lot of people say or do. But back in high school, I was the kid. I never was a party animal, but I wasn't a study nerd. I was somebody who just liked to do everything. And I was in all these different clubs, theater and debate, and this, that, and the other thing. And do you remember your homeroom in high school and the morning announcements that nobody could hear? Well, I was the kid who didn't want to miss a meeting. So I'd go down to the office and say, can I just see the morning announcements where I'm supposed to be? And they saw me enough, they thought, would you like to read them? Oh, yeah. And it was a whole nother pilot program because the kids would stop to listen to another kid. And before you know it, I ended up training all my replacements. So I kind of got myself out of a job. But I thought, this is pretty cool. And this was a lot of fun. And I wanted to get into it when I was doing my corporate work. But I was told at that time, not too many people do it. You have to be fully available all the time. And I couldn't do that with a corporate job. And we didn't have the technology we have today where I could do it right in my own home. So I put it on the back burner till I ran into an acting friend who told me about this great new voiceover studio right in our hometown that's starting up training. And I just jumped in. And that was back in 2017, and I haven't looked back. And as far as the second one, have I done anything with celebrities? Well, with film and TV here and occasionally. Not so much recently, but I remember like in the heat of the night with Carol O'Connor, and I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. So just a few, but I think I'm still climbing that echelon where I'm going to have a killer scene with somebody. Check back
Hey,
with me in a few years.
hey, never say never. So
Yeah.
the next one I want to ask you, you mentioned time machine, and this is an interesting question. I never asked this before, so you're actually the first one. As we saw, are you a fan of Back to the Future?
Oh my God, I love that movie. All three of them.
So there's a line in the movie where if you go back into, oh, and this was jammed down people's throats too. You go back in time, don't interfere, don't step anything, don't step on a wave, the butterfly effect. But my
Right.
favorite cartoon, it's Dragon Ball, and one reason I wear gold, gold kind of resembles power and royalty. I know I have a big ego, but the reason I say that is when we were kids, that was always jammed down our throats. If you can go back in time, you're gonna change the past. What I found out recently of my favorite cartoon, Dragon Ball, now available on Peacock, social medias, it's going back in time, number one, it's a sin and it's taboo and because it's forbidden. But if, say, for an example, hypothetically, your grandfather died from a heart virus, so you have in this timeline the antidote. By going back in time and giving him the antidote, that does not change your timeline. What that actually does is make an alternative reality. So going
Mhm.
back in time is you're not going back to that time, you're going to an alternative reality. Do you like that theory, or do you like the one that's Back to the Future? You're going back and you're gonna change something in the present.
No, I like the infinite universe theory. And I'm going to tell you about a series of books I think you're going to love. And for anybody else who is watching this, the first one is called 1632. And the series by Eric Flint is called the Ring of Fire series. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I heard of it.
Yeah. And a quick synopsis is that he's got a number of different books, but this is where a West Virginia town is plucked and thrown in the middle of the 30-year war in the Germanys in the 1630s. And it's a matter of how everything changes, but it's a totally different universe because they can't find any evidence of a 20th century town in our historical records. And actually, they go forward and they just say now there are other episodes that happen. A cruise ship is put back in Alexander the Great's time, and other people got thrown back to the age of the dinosaurs. But there's an infinite number of universes. And so any slight decision you make changes everything. And so there have been even some cases of some miracle spontaneous cures. And the theory is that when people are able to tap into that, into one of those universes where they are not sick and bring it forward, they are cured as far as we can tell, but it's a matter of these alternative universes all interplaying, and they're just everywhere within us. So how's that for philosophy?
Yeah, it sounds really good. So the next subject I want to talk to you about is social media. Can social media make you or break you with everything that you accomplish? Is there any websites that you use religiously, like you always on Facebook, Instagram, or is there any websites you would recommend?
Social media is extremely important, but it also depends on what you're going to use it for and what you want to accomplish. So I don't think it's either made me or broken me. The first thing I advise anybody is just if you're especially going to be running a business, do not put anything that's of a political or religious nature on it. You might get a lot of attention, but it could hurt you in the end and take away from future potential business. That saying, I'm very active on, well, quite a few. I keep all of my content on YouTube. In fact, I've got 2 YouTube channels because my funny little series that I call Momisms was so popular, I spun it off on its own YouTube channel. And I'm very busy on LinkedIn because that's where all the business is being conducted. And I use that not just for voiceover work, but also because I help business people who need to get better on camera and how to relax, Zoom presentations, online interviews, appearances, that sort of thing. Yes, I'm also populating Instagram because as an actor, that's where you're mostly visible. And I use Facebook for a lot of personal reasons. So those are the main ones. I'll play around with some of the others, but honestly, you can only do so much at a given time. And it's better to focus just on what you can really do and show up and engage. Otherwise, you're not going to accomplish much.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, speaking of social media, how can our fans and listeners get in touch with you?
Well, I would love you guys too. Let me just kind of give you the handles. If you're on YouTube, you can find everything I've done at Laura.v.doman, just my name spelled out. If you just want the funny things, I call it at my momisms. Cute little videos that, anytime you go to a gift shop, you see those funny sayings, I kind of bring them to life. On LinkedIn, I'm at Laura.v.doman, and on Instagram and Facebook, it's laura.v as in Victor .doman, because somebody already took Laura.v.doman. How rude of them.
For me, it's just I can speak part of the show. For me, it's hashtag KeithAndrewNetwork or just one word, KeithAndrewNetwork. It's the same on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X or whatever.
Yes.
It was too long, so it's KeithAndrew88, but I don't really acknowledge that. But it's pretty much everywhere. But I want you to be brutally honest. And
Yeah.
maybe we can do a special episode, if you're interested, where you can walk through the steps of being better on camera. I'm going to ask you that question in 1 second. And I would love to hear your expertise. But my question to you, I want you to be brutally honest. And I have no cards on my sleeve.
All right.
As you know, my show is PG-13, uncensored. Depends on the person, because I try to cater to everyone. So there's something for everybody. But without beating around the bus, my question to you is this. When I first approached you to be a guest in my talk show, what made you say yes, and how do you feel now?
What made me say yes was, first of all, the nature of your show, which was very unique, very forthright, and very compelling. And then I took a look at what you've been doing, and I could see that you're legitimate. You've been around for a while, You've got great guests. I know some of the people there. And, I thought that you had a great message, and I'd love to contribute to it if you'd have me.
No, absolutely. And how do you feel now, and would you recommend it to other people?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you're terrific, and I appreciate the platform.
No, I appreciate that. Now, you mentioned this in the early conversation. I want to go back to it as I hinted before about the special episode about feeling comfortable and being better on camera.
Mhm.
From everything that you've seen of me, and especially as we're doing the interview right now, how would you rate my performance as an interviewer? And is there any tips you would or feedback you would give to me?
Well, I think, first of all, you're doing a terrific job as an interviewer. However, when I'm taking a look at your screen, it's all very dark. And typically, what I advise to wardrobe is to go with something that doesn't distract from the message. And I know you got that shiny gold, but I tend to look at all those little palettes and it's like, ooh, shiny objects. And then you also have your backdrop, which is rather interesting, and it's also, bright. So it kind of all goes together. Normally, I would just say the backdrop probably would just serve to give you, an environment. And I would like just to see you a little bit better lit and maybe something a little brighter because you do have a background that's dark. Maybe you need to adjust your lighting or such. Your glasses are fun, but I'd love to see your eyes.
Well,
So,
the reason I wear the filters is because I'm staring direct. Well, usually I do like a split screen, but now I'm looking directly at the camera. And the reason for that is I blink too much, so I kind of have a little Tourette's because I have a bad stigma. So when I talk, I blink, and I was watching back. I'm like, even though I look professional, I talk professional. If you staring at my eyes, it's like, why is he blinking so much?
ah,
So it's for me, it's kind of like a mask. I'm a big fan of the 80s. I love the World Wrestling Federation. So I am a big fan of Bobby Heenan or Gorilla Monsoon. So the glasses remind me of something Gorilla Monsoon would wear. This would be something Bobby Heenan would wear. And I'm a big wrestling fan. So if I can do different aspects and kind of like a superhero, put a mask on, I can do different things. If I'm staring at myself without the filters, one eye's going to be here, one eye's going to be here, and it's going to be what the hell is he staring at? Then I'm going to be self-conscious of myself. So
gotcha.
uh,
In that case, I would just say, I would talk with you and let's just work a little bit on your lighting because I think it could be a lot brighter. And the right side of your face, your right side, not the image that I'm looking at, is a bit darker. And it could be that some softer lights placed in certain ways could help illuminate you without giving you trouble with your eyes. You could keep your glasses on, but it would just distinguish you from your darker background.
well, how's it now?
It's a little bit better, but I still think there you go. A little bit better, but even from the side, like ideally, if you're having lights, even ring lights, they don't have to be very bright, but place them at 45-degree angle to the camera. And I don't know if that's what you have there. You can
Oh
even have a
no,
little backlight behind you too.
that's a good idea. And for me, I'm sitting in front of the screen, and I do need a brighter light in the room to lighten it up. But it's a work in progress. I know I said this for almost 11 years. It's a work in progress. I'm unemployed right now, so I'm showing you, hey, with a disability, look at what I'm able to accomplish. So
Yeah.
it's baby steps.
Well, I think you're doing amazingly well, and I just really want to applaud you. I think it's terrific.
No, I appreciate that. Now I'm going to pass the show over to you. It's the last 5 minutes. Was there
All right.
anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to promote? You can ask me anything.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I guess what I can do is just kind of give a little overview of what I provide if anybody is kind of interested. I mean, hey, as an actor, I don't think I have to go into a lot of that. You've had a lot of performers. You kind of know what we do. A lot of people are wondering exactly what is voiceover. There are a lot of different genres. These are the voices you might hear in commercials, in website videos, training videos, bus announcements, anything that you might see but doesn't have a person attached to it, but you hear something. Of course, it can be in animation and gaming, and there's so many different ways of looking at it, even the phone systems. Now, as far as the on-camera stuff, I'm going to give a couple of tips to everybody right here. I kind of divided into two different areas. One is getting people to relax and get comfortable with the camera. The other half is working on your delivery. Now, I've got all kinds of videos on my YouTube channel about this. Long ones and short ones. I even have a LinkedIn newsletter. But essentially, if you want to get comfortable, there are certain things that you can do ahead of time. First of all, just imagine you're talking to one person. You're not up against a wall. You're not being interrogated. Just, speak conversationally like somebody that really wants to hear what you have to say. Make sure that you're also relaxed for it. And usually what I would suggest is start drinking a lot of water about an hour or two ahead of time. You might run to the bathroom a bit before you go on, but that way your whole vocal equipment is going to be nicely hydrated. The other thing you want to do is a bit of exercise. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a star athlete. Walking around outside for 15, 20 minutes, maybe doing a little knee bend or two, or even some head movements, just moving your head around, let go of the tension by up the shoulders and down the shoulders. Make silly faces, make silly noises. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. Now, in terms of making the camera work for you, imagine these are business people who are not comfortable with the camera at all. We know we're talking to one person. I go in to think about the framing. We're not in a three-dimensional universe. We're very 2D. And the camera's only going to see a certain box. Usually it's going to be a rectangle like this. That's called your framing. So when you're talking, you don't want to move too much so that you're out of frame, up or down. You also got to realize that the screen people will watch you on could be huge. And if you don't believe me, just wait until you see yourself on the movie theater. Every little flaw. And that's why actors are told to do everything small. And the same thing is true with a video. Anything small is going to look pretty big on a screen. So you don't have to get carried away. And this is always my biggest challenge because I'm a very expressive person. Another thing is with hand gestures. Don't go wild with your movements. I mean, it's one thing in person to be gesturing and, moving all kinds of places, but you don't want to be distracting on camera. Otherwise, people are looking at your hands instead of at you. And let's see, one more: dynamic delivery. Don't be in such a rush to speak. Now, I'm naturally a fast talker, but if you don't want to have pauses that you're uncertain about, or you're using words like, take a deep breath, relax, and think about what you want to say. And there's nothing wrong with using a deliberate pause. It'll look like you're thinking, it adds suspense, and people have a chance to catch up with what you're saying. You can also vary your tone and your volume and your pacing because you're going to be telling a story. So those are just some of the tips that I like to share.
I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. So until we meet again, catch you later and have a good night.